where Elliot Freeman implying that the Jeremy Swayman holdout in training camp affected the team then and continues to. It affects the overall situation. There are lingering hard feelings. We're going to workshop this and cast about because this surprises me. As down as I am on Jeremy Swayman, as against him as I was during his training camp holdout, and you know how I felt about that. I would not have given him that contract. I think the Bruins overpaid him by a large margin. I never felt he was in the right. I would have traded him. And I even second-guessed myself. As we went through it, I said they should have kept Ullmark for one more year at $5 million and traded this guy. So you know how I feel about this. But at no point did I think it was going to affect the team. Mazz, you know this.
Yep.
From following sports, covering sports, you could be the biggest a-hole known to man. If you're a player looking for more money on a contract, other players are going to support you. Mm-hmm. The guys stick together. Look at the Major League Baseball Players Association.
Correct.
Because those guys are all like, that could be me someday. I could be in that situation. Yeah.
Players always stand up for players when it comes to the money and the contracts. It's just you don't lose teammates because you hold out for more money. Who does that? When does that happen? Except apparently it has. And you watch the way the Bruins play in front of Jeremy Swayman versus the way they play in front of Jonas Korpisalo. A clear trend has emerged. They get blown out in front of Jeremy Swayman. They just lose in front of Korpisalo. There's a difference there. But this is all a backdrop. I'll circle back to it. It's all a backdrop to the Bruins once again getting waxed by a bad team last night at home. And we've been asking it for 3 weeks ever since Montgomery pushed Brad Marchand on the bench in Utah. When is this guy going to get fired? Our old friend Rich Keefe reports today that Montgomery is out and Joe Flacco is in. Excuse me. I've done this a couple times now. Sacco. Joe Sacco.
Not as elite.
Not the cold squad. That's a bad report. It's Joe Sacco. BU kid who used to coach in Colorado, has been an assistant here for years. Montgomery out, Sacco in. The team has not announced anything, but Rich has been ahead of some Bruins stories here in the last, couple of months, years. So I have no reason to disbelieve him. And it felt like the writing's been on the wall for weeks on this. So that's where we stand today. Nothing official from the team. Mazz, Murray, your thoughts?
So to me, first of all, in the coaching move, I believe it. I mean, I think it's coming. I'm not surprised. And the comment from Friedman as it pertains to the goalies, I now believe it more than ever that there's something going on in that room as it relates to Jeremy Swayman and the rest of the players on the team. I mean, just looking at the numbers, as you pointed out, with him and Korpisalo, the Bruins are 5-7, or Swayman's 5-7. His save percentage is .884. His goals against is .347. Those numbers blow. Meanwhile, Korpisalo, 3-2, .901, .274. And they've been far more competitive with Korpisalo in net. Did you see Swayman's body language on those goals last night? He looked like he was just in a pickup game. I mean, he didn't look engaged at all to me.
Out to lunch. Yeah, and you just look at, I'm sorry, Murray, I'll just finish up Mazz's thought. You look at, it's the lopsided nature of the games that stand out to me. Once we got past opening night, remember Korpisalo had to play opening night in Florida and they got steamrolled and gave up 6 goals. Here are Korpisalo's goals against in his in the 6 games he's played since. Okay, he had 6 starts since then. And here are the goals against. 3-1-2-0-3-3. So nothing spectacular. Nothing, but they're, if you keep it to 3 or less, you're in most games. Jeremy Swayman, since then, and I'm not going to give you every game because he's had a few where he's only allowed a few goals. But since then, he's allowed games. He's had games where he's allowed 4, 6, 7, and 5 goals against. And they getting blown out in those games. When Swayman is in there and they get down, it goes from bad to worse.
Right. It's like they cave.
Something's up with Swayman, and I am stunned and I don't even know if it's the contract. I'm not willing to say it's the contract because that to me is like, that's not the way it works. No matter how much the players may hate each other on a personal level, when it comes to fighting for money, they stand together. They don't hold that against another guy to set a market for the next guy. So that That doesn't sound right to me. That
No.
would be about the money.
Feels like a trigger.
No, it doesn't, but maybe it speaks to bad leadership by Brad Marchand, who they made captain, where he's like one of these old school types, and yes, he would agree, get your money, but you should also be here. So be here and you figure it out. Otherwise, we're going to hold that against you. I think this speaks to bad leadership by Marchand in some way, shape, or form. I was with you on this. I didn't want to believe this, and I know you speculated on it when it was one of these bad losses where he gave up like 5 or 6 goals. Like, there's something with Swayman. But after what Swayman was saying, and we'll get into some of the quotes from last night's game.
Go ahead.
This one last night when Swayman said on missing training camp, I think I've had enough time now to adapt and get back to things. I think the biggest thing I lost out on was this group. I lost out on the group. I lost my teammates. He just admitted it to you. There's a disconnect between him and the rest of the team.
I'm really trying to engulf just being in the room again and being a leader. And I want my play to speak for that. I need to step up, and that's actually what I'm going to do. So he talks about his relationship in the room, Murray. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I lost out on the group. They're holding something against him, whether it's that the contract or something. They're holding out the fact that he was not there at training camp. That part's clear. What it's about, I don't know. But there's definitely something there.
And
He
also,
admitted it.
And also Montgomery made a comment, too, where he said something. Someone asked him about Swayman missing training camp and whether that affected him and his play. And Montgomery said, well, I don't know how you can miss training camp and not be affected. Or something to that
I don't think
effect.
missing training camp helps anyone. That's why it's training camp.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But to Murray's point about the leadership, and this is where, let's just say that the problem isn't between Marchand and Swayman. It's someone else. Well, it's also the captain's job to make sure everybody buries the hatchet and we go play as a team. If we're not going to play as a team, we're screwed. So I think Marchand could be accountable in that way from a leadership standpoint potentially. I'm not saying I know anything, I'm just telling you. But like the captain's job is to make sure everybody's on the same page.
I know nothing other than just it has been off from the second they dropped the puck in Florida on opening night. And it's not just that they're slow or poorly constructed, which they are as well. It's beyond that, okay? There's something wrong with the team. There's something rotten on the team. They're broken. You can tell. You can tell if you watch hockey when a team is done with its coach or done with themselves or something's wrong.
Pasternak had no shots last night. They got throttled by arguably the worst team in the NHL.
They had the worst record in the conference going to play last night.
Columbus had lost 7 of its last 8 games, giving up 36 goals in those 8 games. And David Pasternak, on 6 power plays, did not register a shot. Okay, so that's not... I know we're going to get a lot
That's not bad roster construction.
You're getting a lot of Sweeney calls,
Yeah,
and it's a poorly constructed roster. There's something first, which I've been trying to tell you. That before we get to Sweeney and Neely, there's something rotten in that room. And I don't know what it is, but I've told you, there's been things on the team, around the team, adjacent to the team, that I don't know if they're related or not, but they do time out. I'm not even going to say them because I have no idea what's what. I don't know. But I just know some, I just, there's just crap circling the team that's beyond the fact that Zadorov doesn't skate well. Like, it's beyond that. Don't you get it? Like, what does Zadorov not skating well have to do with David Pasternak looking like a mess half the time? And what does it have to do with Jeremy Swayman and this thing with the team? So what is that? And there's clearly a problem with the coach, and I don't know what that is either, but I think there's like something off the ice, not hockey related, that's just in there, and it's because it just has that whiff to me.
It might be more than one thing. I mean, how'd you like that goal last night? That the first shorthanded goal that made it 2-0 with the guy.
We just slipped it between his pads.
Yeah, but also he just skated in from the corner while everybody else just stood there. And watch how many times last night there was a Columbus player with the puck, and how much effort Bruins players put in to actually checking him and being hard on the puck. They're so soft on the puck, it's not even funny.
Swayman's in net. He's given up 12 goals in his last 2 games.
He's allowed more goals than any goaltender in the league.
He's lost games. I don't have the opponents. I only have his goals against. But he's had games where he's given up 6 goals, 7 goals, 5 goals, 4 goals 3 times. Now, how many? He have 6 or 7 games where he's allowed 4 or more goals?
Yeah.
I mean, so listen, that was a bad signing, and more than half of you don't have the right to say, yeah, they're a bad sign. You wanted them to sign them. Most of you did, and most of you, the team is cheap. They won't pay them. You don't get to turn around now and say, well, why'd you sign him? No. You get to call up and say, I was wrong. They shouldn't have signed him. But I don't even think this is that. Like, this is even beyond that. Signing a goalie for too much money. There's something wrong there with the guy and the team. I mean, so Fluto Shinzawa, and thank God he wrote it. Like, is anyone else? I don't read everybody else. I try to throw everyone else under the bus. But again, headline in The Athletic: Fluto Shinzawa firing coach Jim Montgomery is the Bruins' only logical move. That takes a lot for a beat guy who's there every day to write that. Good for Fluto. That's why he's good. But in one of his lines in here, he wrote on Jeremy Swayman, and he writes a Montgomery quote that you said, I don't think missing training camp helps anyone, Montgomery said. That's why you have training camps. So Fluto writes, what's done is done. Swayman's priority is to find his confidence, clean up his game, and prove to his teammates that he was right to play hardball. If Swayman continues to take backward steps, he will not have many friends left in the locker room.
Yeah, it was a damning line.
Many friends.
Many friends left? The implication there is that he's lost friends.
Right, he's already lost some.
Don't tell me he lost it over the contract. That is not the way it usually works. You lose people in the locker room because you're an a-hole.
Right.
Or they don't believe in you.
No, right. The contract's a trigger. They didn't like him to begin with, and then this thing happened, and he lost them.
Which
something like
he
that.
was easily losable to me. Like, not my kind of guy.
Oh, same. Yeah.
The Murray, as we talk about, the kind of millennial kid you'd want to crack in the throat just to shut him up. Like, stop. So
it's Mac Jones-esque, his attitude. He's a why guy. Like, I need the answers to everything.
But he's a good goalie. I've liked him as a goalie. You never heard me disparage him as a player. I like the way he plays net. It should have been his net in the last couple of playoffs. Like, I like him as a player. It's stupid to pay goalies too much money, especially ones who are unproven. If you got Marty Brodeur and you've won 2 or 3 cups, and fine. But someone who's won 1 playoff round, you're going to pay him at the top of the market? That's stupid. I told you so. And I told you that Korpisalo would be just fine, because I know this is hard for you to accept. The goalies are overrated. It's an overrated position. I know. Mind blown. You can't wrap your head around that. It's true. Goaltending is important, but the goaltender, overrated. And, you made this guy overrated like overnight. Maybe it went to his head. Maybe he carried himself like an a-hole. I don't know. But Jeremy Swayman stands to me as like one of the few pro athletes I've ever seen lose teammates over a contract. They always have each other's back. How'd he lose them over this?
Because it's not really about the contract. It's probably about entitlement or something like that.
Unless it's not that. Unless it's something else, as Mazz said. It's just they use that.
I'm telling you, it's just, in all probability, it was a trigger that ignited some underlying issues.
Real quick, what are Neely and Sweeney doing now? So it's obvious that he's been on the block, Montgomery has been, since before the year they didn't give him a contract. So, like, right there, full stop, obviously, he's a lame duck walking the plank on his way out on thin ice. Like, fact. They let the team dangle like this for 2 months without clarifying his spot or firing him. One or the other. Extend him, or, even the stupid vote of confidence, I know usually doesn't work, but it's one or the other. Where you go to the place and say, this guy's going nowhere, guys. You say to the players, the coach is going nowhere. We just gave him 2 years. Your ass is on the line. Or you fire him. Now you get to the point where you're just about playing yourself out of it, and now you're going to make the move? So Jim McBride catches up with Cam Neely over the weekend. This was the story that Elliot Friedman was referring to. And I don't know how many words it says, 1,000 words, 750 words. And it's Neely theorizes on the Bruins' slow start. Neely theorizes that Bruins' problems with consistency may go back to training camp. So that was another trigger. It's like, oh, training camp. What happened in training camp? Oh, that's right. Your goalie held out. And Cam Neely cited that as one of the problems. I thought our training camp was a little disjointed. Some guys out at camp, whether it was injuries or whatnot. Okay, so not hard to figure out what he was referring to there. Once again, the Swayman contract holdout. But then they get into Elias Lindholm and Mac Jones, and they miss time in training camp, and how Elias Lindholm hasn't worked out, and that Nikita Zadorov still hasn't found his way, and all these factors around the team. You know what's not mentioned here once? Once. Guess.
Swayman.
Jim Montgomery's contract.
Oh.
Not once is the coach mentioned in this story. Okay, so I know McBride can cover a team with a soft touch, but he ain't this soft. There is no way. We have breaking news.
This is Breaking Sports News.
Powered by Valvoline Instant Oil Change.
On 98.5, The Sports Hub.
We got it here officially from the Boston Bruins. Boston Bruins general manager Don Sweeney announced today, November 19th, the team has relieved Jim Montgomery of his duties as head coach. Associate coach Joe Sacco will assume interim head coaching duties.
It's just way too late. Way too late. I just finished the thought on this column. So Neely did a state of the team with McBride, and the most obvious thing on the team is the coach and his status, and McBride never even mentioned it, which I know because we've done this. It was a precondition. Neely said, yes, I'll talk to you about the team. I'm not going to field any. Don't even ask me about Montgomery and his contract. That's obvious. So why are you dancing around and dicking around and playing these games? Fire him or resign him, and now it just has come out they fired him.
So I have a theory on why they didn't. Why they didn't do it till now. There's a lot of hockey left. They can still turn it around. And if they don't, under the next guy, Sacco, who's going to get the heat?
Yeah. No, if you miss a play. This is when the executives lose their jobs with the Bruins, when you miss the playoffs. You make the playoffs, the GM stays. The coach goes. When you miss the playoffs, that's when the GM gets it.
My guess is they were holding on for as long as they could with the hope that the team would turn it around. And then if they had to fire him late in the year, they could always say, we didn't have enough time to turn it around. What's their excuse going to be now? So now I think it's not Sacco's ass who's on the line, it's their ass.
I'd say, my guess is that's true-ish. I don't know. Chiarelli missed the playoffs 2 years? Or was that Sweeney's first year?
What if they keep looking like this, Mike? What if they finish in the bottom 5 of the league?
I'm all for it. I'm not telling you they shouldn't.
I'm not talking about just missing the playoffs.
Okay, no.
I'm talking about bottom 5 in the league because that's what they are right now. They're pretty damn close to that.
They're on track for 78 points right now.
So, to me, this isn't enough. If this is all they're doing, I don't think they do make the playoffs. I don't. I think they got to shake up the locker room. They got to figure out the goalie thing here right out of the chute. But just give Korpisalo the net for the time being. And let him go. He's allowing 3 games or less every game. Since opening night, it's been 3 goals or less every single start. Unless I've got it wrong, which sometimes I do. But it looks to me like since opening night, you can give his goals against average. I just have his game log in front of me. 3, 1, 2, 0, 3, and 3 is the goals allowed. He's kept you in most games. Meanwhile, apparently there's an issue there with Swayman and the team. And Swayman has allowed 12 goals in his last 2 games. First order of coaching, can I have Sacco one little hello? Why don't you sit Jeremy Swayman down? Let him go play the fiddle somewhere and clear his head. He can go for a nice hike and look up at the stars and strum his guitar and
play some camp.
Go with this other guy. Go with Korpisalo for the time being. So this took way too long. And what the hell is going on with the goalie there? So that just happened, folks. If you're just joining us, breaking news. The Bruins have officially fired Jim Montgomery. Joe Sacco has taken over behind the bench. Did they say in the release is on an interim?
They said interim.
Yeah.
So interim basis.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Felger and Mazz here. For more Bruins analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.